We are here for the Village of North Bennington monthly trustee meeting. And we have members of the fire department and other members of the public and our zoning administrator in attendance, along with many of us. First order of business is to acknowledge our public attendance and amend the agenda. There is just a few slight changes to the agenda. Under old business, we had Welling Field update. There is no update to be done on Welling Field. I'll make one quick note of that though in the DRB section. Alyssa, are you going to, can we add you under new business to discuss the ordinance, or are you not ready to do that?
I'm not ready.
Okay, so then we will take that off of there as well. Then I believe in the place of the old business, I will do just a brief update on some of our documents projects that we had talked about before. And we'll do an update for the October meeting, which should be an exciting one. That said, now let's move right away to reviewing and approving the minutes of Tuesday, August 8th, and then the continuation of that until August 15th.
Hold on, Matt's coming in right now.
Let's admit Matthew. We'll back up for a second.
Mayor, could I have maybe 1 minute at the end?
Of course you may. Thank you. And is there anybody else that would like to make comments? Okay, good. So noted, Robert. We'll make sure that you're there.
Matt's in.
Matt, we are now at the point of reviewing and approving the minutes.
Okay,
I was not at either of these meetings, so I will be abstaining from this, nor making any motions of such. So please.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of August 8th.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, and then we have a second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And me abstaining. Then we also have the continuation minutes from the 15th, is whoever was there.
And I was not there.
You were not. Patterson, Molyneux, Lowry, Bugie.
Yeah.
One of you can make the motion, except
I'll
Mr.
make the
Bugie.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, that was motioned and seconded. Laura, you got that? Yes. Okay. Assuming no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And one abstention. Thank you.
2 abstentions.
2. Good thing you guys are around. Good grief. The next thing, we'll move right to the monthly warrants and approving payment. Doug, please take this in any order you wish.
Okay, so we will start with the payroll warrant. So payroll warrant is for $19,524.87, and August is a little bit of a weird month. So you'll see there's 3 deductions. However, the final pay was actually September 1st, but because the payroll company pulls it on Thursday, which was August 31st. So that's why there's 3 in for August. The checks actually pay out 3 in September, but the way that it comes out of the account. Nothing out of the ordinary. All the pay, fees, everything is as it has been. So the warrant, if there's no other questions, is $19,524.87.
Doug, the Pay Data and Assure company has multiple listings here. Could you briefly explain what they do?
Yep. So the ER is the employer withholdings. See how, so if you look at August 4th, the first one says week 31 ER.
Okay.
In the middle column.
Mm-hmm.
So the ER stands for employer.
Gotcha.
The EE stands for employee.
Okay.
And then the fee is the fee for them to process our payroll.
Okay.
So every pay period, you'll see 3 of those. We are actually only paying them the one that says fee. But they do all of the withholdings, the reporting, and everything like that. So we break it out for tracking. So you have the employer portion, the employee portion, and the fee portion.
Thank you very much. That's
sure.
Very helpful.
Was there any other discussion? Any other questions?
I would make a motion that we approve the payroll warrant September 2023 for $19,524.87.
I'll second.
Seconded here. Any, assuming no other discussion, since we've already asked that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
And Lori, you just let us know if you don't get something next time.
Next will be the late August warrant. So there were several items that were paid.
Pardon me, I hate to interrupt. Did you bring extra copies or shall I sign my copies?
You can take the one that I have.
Okay.
So the late August warrant, there's several items. The total is $24,738.92. All of the larger items pertain to the culvert project. We had 21st Century Concrete at a little over 2,800. We had Peckham for a little over 9,000, and we had United Rentals for 4,900. So those are the larger items in the late warrant, and those are all pertaining to the culvert project. Other than that, there's nothing unusual there. If there's any other questions, I will note, Mary had asked last time about the AT&T. We do still pay two. I'm just going to put it as one payment within QuickBooks, and it's broken out separately. Again, just for everybody to, those are the two phones, one for the treasurer position and one for the zoning position. So that'll show as one AT&T payment. They take that electronically. So again, that total was $24,738.92.
Were there any other, thank you for the thorough explanation of those. Is there any questions on these? Hearing none, motion to pay the late August warrant.
I'll make a motion. So moved.
Yes, that is motioned and I will second that. $24,738.92. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the September warrant, again, we have a large September warrant. Total is $111,817.68. I'll hit some of the highlights and then answer any questions. VLCT, that is a quarterly payment for insurance. That was a little over $12,400. VAE, $15,755.84. That is ARPA. That was for their part of their approved allotment for their bathroom project. We received receipts totaling that exact amount, $15,755.84. Parent and Rec, there is a portion in there that is for their ARPA for their tables, and I don't know if I have the exact breakout. So their total check is $10,439.94. A little over 8,000 was the amount for the
Is this two things then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
So this is some ARPA and some, actually, if we look at.
Yeah, the detail.
At the
report,
detail.
it has
Okay,
that.
good.
I just don't have my detail in front of me.
I do, and I can get to it when we have a question.
McCullough Library has their next payment of $10,000. Mark Honorano, a little over $24,000. Norm can talk to that once we get to the culvert update, but that is the general contractor that was at the culvert project. Bulldog Fire, I will have Chief jump in for that one here in a second. That is work for one of the fire trucks, $5,448.48. And Bennington County Regional Commission, $9,900, which Mary will speak to.
And that is grant funded, 7,800 and change, I believe, is grant funded. This was to update the, not the hazard mitigation plan, not the LEMP, the other one. Oh, there's two of them. But it was one of, the pre-hazard disaster mitigation plan. This is the one that the BCRC, they had to go compile. There are copies of this around. I know that there are here, and I have distributed them to some of the trustees, if not all. But at any rate, it was for all of the planning that you do before something ever hits. BCRC compiled years worth of weather data, other type of things that other disasters that have previously hit in a certain period of history, etc. That work was actually done. in December of 2022, finalized and sent to the state in March, I believe. But then BCRC had some personnel changes, people leaving, coming and going. The billing actually, I kept calling them and the billing did come out. But I've also confirmed with the state that we're not too late on submitting this grant because it was a 2018 grant. We're still getting our reimbursement. So as soon as I can get the canceled check, we will have our funds in hand to reimburse us.
Okay. And I'll give a quick synopsis of Bulldog, and then Chief Cross can jump in and fill in any blanks. So Chief had received a bill for well over $6,000 for work to the new fire truck. They have a number for it, which is number 55. We both questioned what it was for, weren't quite sure. The other, it was for service performed in April. We did not receive a bill until July. So Chief can go from there as to his conversations with Bulldog and where it took him from there.
We called Bulldog, talked to a man called Mark, and we started really questioning because we had no clue what this bill was. I get told different stories on this thing, so it was done. I talked with Mark, he did lower it down a little over $1,200, I think is what he did lower from the original bill. It was service to the chassis. The original thing is what I got out of Eddie was it was brought down to have the pump looked at because they were having issues with the pump and the electronic and the computer part of it. How the other stuff got put in there, I can't answer that.
Well,
so the determination was there was a lack of communication when the truck was brought in for service. So the bill should have been prior year,
yes,
because service was performed in April. But here we are.
And we're not going to go back. We could have, if this was, even a month ago, we could have accrued it into the prior year. We've already set the tax rate, so we're not going to go fooling with that. And those of you who are inheriting this, it is not on your shoulders to do anything about. We're just going to get the bill paid, learn, and move along. I do know, however, that Ray specifically asked when we were talking about this new truck whether there were warranties included, and I think it was part of the please correct me if I'm not understanding correctly, but that there was a way that when it was taken in, things that were said that were not necessarily indicative of warranty work. And so it was not processed as a warranty job. Roughly so?
That's the way I was taking it.
Okay.
Talking to Mark.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
You know what?
The exact word.
Yeah, it is not to be on your shoulders. We will just go ahead and pay this bill. Okay. Move along.
And so if there's any other questions, otherwise we'll entertain a motion for the September warrant.
Can you state the total again, Lori?
Yes. Yep. So the total is $111,817.68.
Okay. I'll move it.
Ray has made the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Matthew seconded. Assuming there are no other questions, but if there are, chime in. Assuming no others, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Go along. Was that it,
For
Mr.
this portion, yep. The
Yes,
rest will be
okay.
in my treasurer's
Okay,
report
I
later.
will, here, you gotta sign it first and I'll come back to it. Gotta get back to my thing here. Okay, we're already next.
I've given you 6 extra minutes.
Okay. All right, Norm, you're up.
All right, so our culvert project, which is basically the biggest thing we've had in a long time, is 99.9% completed. We're going to work Friday with the invoicing with the state. So I don't believe that we'll have much problems there. We just got a couple little touch-up things that we gotta do before winter down there. Looks very nice, extremely happy. You know, the fee that the contractor gave us was beyond a gift. You know, and I mentioned that.
Yes.
You know, so it was a great experience for everybody that worked on it. The fire department even got kicked in a little bit on the last days, but.
Wonderful. Well, I will say it looks like a manicured lawn, and I hope we can kind of keep it that way.
Well, we can't. That's the sad thing. I kind of wanted to. I did win the battle with leaving the little pond on the inside. You know, they're going to use it for you know, like I don't know, experiment or just, you know, see how long it takes to fill in something. And, you know, because there are fish that are living in it. You know, I've seen people fishing in it already.
Oh, wow.
But it has to go back a lot to nature. We'll probably cut some of it so we can get down to keep the beavers from, you know, building too close, be able to see it. But it'd be nice just the way it is. But that's why you see we didn't put like topsoil on there, because, you know, we can't do it. So that being said, we the rest of the month we just kind of cleaned up our messes that we made all over the place from that job. Took care of little odds and ends. We have a few car accidents that I'm dealing with. The one is on Harlan Road, which is not a big deal, but the second one is the fountain. That is a big deal, and it's not very easy. I can't get a pool company in the state to come and fix that.
Wow.
Everybody's like, we're closing pools. There's no more work. There's no more work. We're closing. So I don't know what we're gonna do.
So what's the worst that happens if it's?
We winterize it and close it.
Okay, so
it's not the end of the world. It's just, it's nice,
I just was,
you know,
concerned that maybe something would freeze and get even more damage.
No, we'll have to drain it and, you know, finish winterizing it. You know what we have to do. You know, but I'm trying to get it going. But if I can't somebody to answer in another 2 weeks, it's we're just, because usually Columbus Day we shut it off.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Well, then maybe that's the best course.
You know, we're so close to that.
To you.
This last storm, we had a major problem on Harlan Road. We actually got very lucky with the power guys showing up early. There was 5 trees rattled all up. We got in. I was here, I don't know, midnight with the fire department for a while, and then we decided to say, that's it. We're not touching anything. It's too, you know, it's windy. It's starting to rain again. You know, somebody's going to get hurt. You know, notified the people that couldn't get out, that were really trapped, and we cleaned it up all on Monday. So that was a good job. We've started working on our other grant projects. The one is Welling Road, doing the ditching, and the fellow Stu Johnson will be here next week. We're having a grader class with just us. So we're saving that road to grade with them, and that's part of that grant.
I don't follow what class.
It's a private grading class for just us.
Oh, okay.
So this guy is like the grader guy in the whole state.
Oh, okay.
And he's coming to work with me and to work with Kyle. So that's why we started ditching the road and doing some things. We'll work on our second little project across the street from the firehouse and get the stones pulled in, and then we'll be out of the grant business for this year. We've signed 1 out of the 3 salt contracts. So we're only committed right now for 100 ton. That's not nowhere near enough. We're waiting on the other 2. So, you know, we're drastically moving into the winter season, whether people want to believe it or not, and, leaves and all that other yuckiness. But, you know, for right now, we're doing very well. We got that, Larry's been working 3 days a week, and, you know, so far he's worked out very well. So let us get a lot of stuff done.
How long will Larry be able to commit?
Well, I'm hoping to keep him until November 1st.
Oh, good.
that was my goal. Actually, I'd like to keep them a little bit longer than that until I get back from vacation
Okay,
through hunting season, but,
Okay.
you know, but November 1st, and he might go down to 2 days a week or something like
Okay.
that. But,
good. Well, it's
um,
good. I mean, you guys need some sort of backup.
yes,
You need somebody trained to be able to do something.
yes.
Okay.
So basically, the only other thing that we have is probably the sidewalk tractor.
The sidewalk tractor is the next on the
You
list
know,
here.
we've narrowed it down, pretty much getting this exact same thing that we have.
Mhm.
We have made a concession to hold off on one of our 1-tons, which should have been replaced this year as well. But again, because we're buying the right vehicles for the right jobs, we can go another year and spread that out and, you know, and deal with that. So we have a almost signed deal with another municipality. I was asked to keep that a secret.
Yep,
Left in
please
an
do.
executive session.
Yep.
I can tell you. So ours is gone. We have our money and.
Did you want Doug to run through what you've got? Are you at a point where you could run through? Okay.
Yep. So the financing looks like it's going to go directly through the company, the Whacker. They offer basically equipment financing, which Norm thinks that's who we did the last way. So the total is a little over 108,000. We are going to put 58 and change down from a combination of sinking funds and the sale of the current one. So that will leave us a finance amount of 50,000. That'll have 4 payments. So it's a 5-year note. However, our down payment is considered our first year's payment. Then there'll be 1 annual payment after that. And that'll be, we're waiting for the final, but it's looking like we're going to be able to get 1.99% financing. So we're keeping the fingers crossed that that's where we get locked in at.
Yeah,
and the good news, the last one we bought was used, correct, Norm?
Yes.
Yes.
So the amount that we're financing this time, it was 7 years ago, 8 years ago now. It'll be 8 years, right? We're only financing $5,000 more than we did, and this is a new one. So
is this for plowing?
This is our sidewalk machine, a little yellow tractor that we use.
Right.
So we use it for, I mean, with this series, the Whacker, we have forks on it, we have a loader on it, we use it all year long.
But also for plowing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's our sidewalk machine. I mean, you know,
Right.
a lot of, you know, this is a battle we go with, you know, certain homeowners in the world or whatever, but, you know, go to Albany and go shovel your own sidewalk. It would be a lot cheaper for us. And sidewalks are expensive. They cost almost as much to do the mile sidewalk as it does the road. It's insane. And, you know, we're well within a better place. We didn't put hardly anything down on the last one, and we financed what you said, 5 more. And we're already buying, you know, we bought a 3-year-old machine last time. So, you know, again, with our crawl, walk, run philosophy, as we've done, and with our surplus equipment, and you know, when we get done with the culvert project and stuff, that number might even get less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because
you know,
because
we did the work. Because
yeah,
I came in and we made, you know, we did our magic and we did everything, you know, with everybody and got everything done.
Wasn't there the big truck that you saved for that job, the surplus big truck that could go out to sale?
Yes, it could go. It could.
Okay.
It could go. Yes.
Are you within your 12 or 18 months or whatever?
I'm close enough. I've actually talked with the auctioneer coming in and taking some pictures. I got a phone call today actually on one of the vehicles. You know, we go back and forth. Okay. What we get and what it is. Like we had that storm, we used that big truck. We loaded it, we smash, crash, and who cares? We got $5,000 into that truck. You know, it's worth 35. You know what I mean? Yeah. But to replace it with something new is crazy. You know, so you know, we go back and forth. But I mean, the board has always respected my opinion on how I flip and stuff. So
well, clearly we don't need it for this particular sale. So yeah. Okay.
No, but I think we'll be surprised when we get the rest of our paperwork done.
Okay.
Where we'll end up. And the last thing, I'm sure I have more, I just forgot about them, but on the sidewalk, we've met with the state. We actually did some excavation with them in partnership up on the top of Bank Street, across from the store. They shot some elevations. They're figuring out their plan. If it all comes into what they want to do, the pipe is actually going to be abandoned where it is now. It's going to be moved closer to Church Street. There'll be, at our expense, a drop inlet on right by the Crawford residence, where basically that pond is always right there. And then it'll go across the road because it's a shorter dig for them, and then cut to their side and then run down the street. And, you know, but our goal is, again, that window is dwindling, but to have that sidewalk ripped out and at least a dirt one reinstalled with their pipe before snow floods.
Okay.
But, you know, it all depends. They have a lot more manpower than we do, but they're stretched a lot thinner. So.
Okay. Well, it is in our budget, so
right.
Let's hope that can be.
And we're still hopeful on Harlan Road. Again,
the
rain is not helping us. You know, that road, there's way too many trees there. I know Jeffrey, but the tree lover is here. You know, that's why that road is rotten. Because all the you know, it needs to dry, and it needs to dry 2 or 3 days before they pave it.
Aside, Jeff and I are educating ourselves on current tree law, and it has changed, and wardens now have additional authority as well as responsibility. We're not at a point where we're ready to draft ordinances, policies, etc. But we're educating ourselves on these things, and part of it does give municipalities a lot more authority to take down dead, dying, or deemed dangerous trees, even on private property if in a public right-of-way. I have not yet found where you can have a shared cost with this. I'm trying to research that. It may just all be municipal cost if the municipality deems something to be taken down. We'll get to that at a later spot, but I know it goes towards significantly towards safety as well as road maintenance and road longevity.
Right, and we have, in more than likely it will end up being, you know, the village or an entity says you need to take that tree down, we're going to take it down. It's going to be on our cost. When we have those other deals where homeowners come and say, I'd really like to get rid of this tree, and say, well, you know what, I guess maybe, but it's not really a big deal to us, and then that's where we do the cost share. You know, again, and it goes in both ways of how things are. We understand that, you know, shade and dampness rots things.
Right.
When the road is shaded, it slows traffic down. That's been studies, and they prove that. That's why I like trees on the side of the road. If the tree shades the road rots. You know, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in blacktop, and understand that you own that asset. You know, nobody ever thinks about that, but you know, we can go for a ride and look at a street such as this, and then go to a street such as Harlan Road, and you'll see that there's a massive difference.
Well, we will do more on that. So let me go just a step back a bit to the whacker. Are you at a point, Norm and Doug, where you need a motion to proceed with the purchase?
Yes.
The ball in Norm's court for there. Right.
You've done your work. You're comfortable with everything.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if the interest rate goes up 2%, we're still well under what the market rate is right now. So
I'll make a motion.
The financing piece makes perfect sense, and
I believe I heard Matthew make a motion. Is that correct?
Indeed.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Tara. Any questions, gentlemen?
I'm a little bit behind the curve here. This is a new machine?
Yes.
And what we had was a used machine.
It is, but that part is a little bit, I I guess I want to say kind of irrelevant. It's on its rotation. This is when this machine was supposed to be done. We're actually more years than what we're trying to get to. We're trying to stay away from the 30-year broken down piece of junk, and start getting into a 7 to 8 year rotation on some of these pieces of equipment, so we can end up with our resale a lot better. You know, you start taking, you take the machine that we are now, we went our 8 years, but now we're selling 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old machine, right? You know what I mean? So we're going, but we're already back 4 years, you know, so we're slowly working our way to where we will have a close to sustainable budget. And that's, you know, again, same with the fire department with their equipment fund, that in the last number of years, you know, we've come up to speed. And so this is the time. But one thing is we didn't expect the transmission to blow in the grader, and there's 2 vehicles that should have been replaced at this point in time this year, after July 1st, and we're going to wait on one for a year till next year, and you know, kind of give us a little bit of a break.
When the price tag on this is 100 grand, so
108.
By the time you put the plow and the sander and the bucket,
that's all the parts and pieces and attachments and everything.
And we're saving a lot of our attachments. There's 6 attachments that we're not selling, and we can use.
And
And
that's basically used in the village, it's paved streets and sidewalks. So.
Yeah.
And you already have a buyer for the old one, so.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
An eager buyer.
Right, and that's part of the offset on what we have to buy.
And this
Correct,
one is
right,
in stock, so you can get it.
No, it is not. Nothing. That's one of the reasons that
We have to
sign for it, so that then Doug can call the guy tomorrow and say, yeah, lock in our interest rate. It is on a boat. It is on the way to the United States, but because we are a valued customer, we have shot over that for anybody else, and we have a week to make our decision.
Okay.
But I know we were meeting here, so
I compliment both of you on getting cheap price and good financing.
Yeah.
I don't know them personally, nor has worked with them, but the gentleman that I spoke to was great. He got back to me when he said he was going to, and answered a couple of questions that I had. So, yeah, like I said, even if that interest rate pops up a couple of points, it's still well under. But he felt that that's where it was going to be.
Right.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none.
You have a first and a second.
Yeah.
We have a first and a second. Lori, will let us know if she didn't get them. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. One more thing, because I got 2 minutes before the next item. Norm and Doug and I had met to just review, if you recall, back in July, we had gone over the RFPs, the quotes for both Hall Street and Park Street from the 2 respondents to our request. We read those, so those are in the record as to what the proposals came into. Norm's suggestion is we deal with Hall Street first and delay, at least for a few months, a decision on Park Street. And so I am here to make a motion to accept the low bid of the 2 proposals for the Hall Street project, awarded to MSK Engineering for that's $26,000
Correct.
for the low bid.
I'd make that motion if I understood why we deferred the other one. I didn't.
The other one was just a high bid.
No, Park Street.
Oh, no.
Oh, Park Street, because of the fact that Norm, you said.
really just so we can get through one project for the other. It's another, and actually I was very shocked to see, because I thought Park Street would be a lot easier project than Hall Street. And Hall Street is It's lower. I want to say more reasonable, but it's lower. I figured it would be the other way, you know what I mean? It's dirt, there's only 5 houses, it's not really a big deal. You know, setting some grades and some elevations, but on Hall Street, there's a ton of just legal right-of-way figuring. And so, you know, it's just accepting one today, getting it started and moving forward, and then going into another. You know, that's why we're.
I'll make a motion to accept the low bid Hall Street preliminary. This is design and engineering.
Yes, it is.
And legal.
Okay, then I'll be happy.
I'll second.
Scott seconded that. Do we have any other questions? Assuming, Matthew, did you have any questions?
Nope.
Nope. Saying no, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Since that's unanimous, we need to go no further, and we will do that.
Robert has a question.
I just have a quick question for Norm. You have all these big jobs. Do we have, I'm just asking you information, do we have equipment when you say digging ditches and things like that? Do you have equipment for that?
Yes.
Okay, you have the grader, so you don't have to rent anything.
We rent a lot of things, but every year we're getting more and better stuff.
Okay.
You know, we get, with the government surplus stuff, if you ever want to stop by my garage, I can't explain it to you now because it's too much in depth, but, you know, we acquire pieces, and then after we use them for a certain project, we sell them, and then we use the financing funds for that to get something else that might be better suited for our task.
Norm's the master at bootstrapping our capital purposes.
For a little village, we have a lot of toys.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. Let us move now along to Mr. Wilmington, Rob Wilmington. Oh, I just want to do one quick thing. Since you will not be here, I just want you to take a quick look. This is the second estimate for the chimney. You can just whisper to Doug if you have an issue with one or either of these. I'll let you look at that, and then we are going to move along to Mr. Wilmington.
Do you want me to join you or sit here?
Please come along.
Yeah.
We have you on the hour,
audio.
but yes, but maybe you want to come over here so they don't get that much of a close-up of you.
Good.
There. Mr. Wilmington is here to present an idea for Lake Perrin.
Okay.
And I will let you do the rest, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm here as a citizen. In the past, I was a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer anymore. I'm just a resident of Mechanic Street. And I've been concerned about the future of the Perrin Recreation property at the lake for a long time. It's a crucial part of the village. It provides public recreation. It's a gathering place. It's conservation land, and it provides public access now for the Frost Trail for the last 10, 12 years. And I think it's been stewarded, taken care of very well by a volunteer group for, I think, about 60 years. But it's an undercapitalized, wholly volunteer organization.
Yep.
And it's a lot to ask for them to protect a village resource like that indefinitely. And this has been a concern of mine ever since my wife was on the board back in the 1970s, when I'd see the balance in the checkbook at the end of the season and figure out how they're going to pay for things in the beginning. And so there have been a number of things I've seen happen. One is the dam almost burst through in 1978 or 79. The village, with help from the legislative delegation, strongly supported rebuilding that dam for $1 million of federal money to really keep the lake as a lake and not let it become a wetland. In the 90s, with encouragement and some help from me, Perrin Recreation has granted a conservation easement to the village on the property with a right of first refusal. And I have some concerns looking back at that now, because it doesn't have a good description of the property in it. And I think it might be subject to some legal challenge. I'm not sure it would be successful, but what that does is it gives the village the right to go to court to stop certain things from happening there, like someone building a house and walling it off from all public access. And it gives you the right to buy it if it's going to be sold. Those are One's an affirmative right, the right to buy it if it's going to be sold. The conservation easement basically gives you a court case to stop things from happening if it's not consistent with the easement. And then about 8 years ago, Parent Recreations gave easement to the Fund for North Bennington for public access to walk over to get to the Robert Frost Trail. So there is kind of right now an intermingling of public and private rights there. But I don't personally see that as a sustainable, secure, long-term solution to preserving that as a public asset of the village. So I have an idea of what I think might do that, and I'll run through it quickly. If you're interested in it, I'd be happy to talk to you more about it at some point. And I see Mrs. here, she can.
You're welcome.
She can talk about whether it's something that might appeal to the Parent Recreations. But what I think would make it sustainable in the long run would be for Parent Recreations to grant a new conservation easement to either the Fund for North Bennington or some other competent conservation organization, so that there's a modern, good easement there that allows for public access, that preserves public recreation, and means that those rights are assured if someone's willing to enforce them. And the enforcement right would be in either the Fund for North Bennington or some other organization. So it wouldn't be the village necessarily having to enforce that. And then I think Parent Recreations ought to deed the property to the village. So the village has ownership. But at the same time, and that would be subject to the easement. So the village would own it, subject to a conservation easement. So your successors couldn't just sell it off as a private building lot, because it would be protected by a third party. And then at the same time, there ought to be an operating agreement between the village and Parent Recreations, so that in terms of the operations for the period of time that agreement is in place, Parent Recreations continues to operate it, but doesn't own it. And the advantages of that, I think, of that sort of arrangement would be, one, the ownership would be secure in the village. That would be a long-term stable ownership of the property. Parent Recreations could continue to do what it does best, which is operate it to the extent it can do it up to standards that you could set in the agreement. The conservation of the public recreation values would be assured in the long run. And Parent Recreations could continue to raise money for the operations. I mean, what I found in situations around the state is that people don't like to give money to public entities, to governments, but they'll give money to nonprofits. So in terms of raising donations and memberships and stuff, Parent Recreations could continue to do that and be able to tap that sort of charitable money. But in terms of getting grants, it's a whole different ballgame when you're a government doing it. I think in terms of bringing in other sources of money, either from Montpelier or from our towns of Bennington and Shaftesbury, if it were owned by the village, I think that would be a lot easier to sell in the long run. So I think you'd put it on a more stable financial, at least the prospects are good. I think that you put it on a more stable financial basis over time, because you'd have more access to grants, and I think you'd still be able to continue the type of fundraising that's happened now. In terms of liability, I assume you'd have 2 levels of insurance instead of 1. Right now, they have their insurance against liability, but presumably, if the village owned it, it would be added to your policy as a secondary coverage, so that if there was a claim, if someone drowned and there was a lawsuit, it would go first against the coverage of Parent Recreations, but there'd be backup at the village. And for secondary coverage, you don't pay that much extra for it. So I think that would be a net benefit, that 2 layers of insurance coverage. I think for the public, I don't know that the difference would, as long as that sort of arrangement could become in place and Parent Recreations continue to operate it, I don't think the public would notice much difference. I mean, I think it would still be the same sort of things. It would be a more stable structure over time. I mean, in terms of putting it in place, it would take some effort on your part now, and it would take some effort on their part now to try to figure out. I think particularly the operating agreement. I think the transfer of title is pretty straightforward. I think the conservation easement has some issues you need to think through, but I don't think it's that complicated. But I think the operating agreement is when they would take some time to just figure out what your interests are and what they want. But ideally, from my non-participatory perspective, it would be, for 3-5 years or more renewable, and that you would put some standards in, and they would have to meet the standards. And if it failed, I mean, in ways you could, put the property on ice and wait till you figure out what to do with it. You don't have to. If they couldn't run it, you don't have to start running it the following year, though. I think a lot of people would appreciate it if you did, but that's not necessary. But you had the ownership and stewardship of it going forward. And I guess the last thing I'd say is that when I was a lawyer, I had terrible conflict of interest rules, or good conflict of interest rules, that kept me from being involved with more than one party in any way. But now that I'm not a lawyer, if you want to pursue this and you want some help from me, I'd be happy to sort of be a draft person and go back and forth and kind of help both sides without having any representation. Kind of figure out your way through it, and you could decide whether you came up with something that you liked or not. I would certainly tell you if you came up with something you thought looked good, to show it to a lawyer and make sure the lawyer thinks it looks right. But I'd be happy to help out if that would be fun. So that's a quick buzz.
I know it's a very, I'm going to get to the trustees first. There is a member of the public, but I want trustees. But I just want to say, I know this is probably the first time that any, if not all of you are hearing of this. So this is not a matter to be decided tonight. It's a matter for food for thought, and just to plant the seed of what we may want to do, because we're all thinking not of just this year or next year with all of the assets of our village, but we're thinking about, which is the job that we have, is to how do we steward this, not for 5 years, but for 10, 15, 20, if not 50 years hence. And that's where I think Rob's idea has merit. No decision is without a pro and a con. So we're not here to debate all of them tonight, just simply to know this is an idea, let's give it some thought. But if there are questions, I will take questions from the public, but let's go. Alyssa, you first.
I don't really have questions. I have some things to say as the representative of Parent Recreations. Rob and I have sort of been batting this idea around for probably 5 years in very, I don't know, a framework, not really anything specific. And as you know, I spend an enormous amount of time trying to keep Parent Recreations and the lake itself healthy and strong. And I would say that the organization is the strongest it's ever been, although I can't comment for, before I lived here, and I'm sure, but I can tell you that the amount of effort that's put in, the amount of money that we've raised, the improvements that we've made on the property, and the stewardship that we've taken charge of for the lake itself is at a high point, I would say, right now. As the chair of the board of Parent Recreations, I have sort of two mandates. One is to do our best to make sure that the lake is preserved and healthy, and the other is to make sure that Parent Recreations is maintained and as a strong not-for-profit. And so given the fact that we have been in that role for 60 years, there's a lot to consider on our part in terms of like, what does this mean for us and how would we move forward with this? So for me, this is, or for Parent Rec, this is sort of the first volley of a longer conversation about how does this strengthen the stewardship of the lake? Because to tell you the truth, this little not-for-profit has done a lot in that arena in the last 10 years for sure, with efforts before that, but with few audiences in the state that were willing to listen to us. And we've strengthened the organization over the last 15 years or so. So it's really important to us to make sure that the lake is our primary goal, but also the organization. So those are the two sort of my point of view that I wanted to add to this. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And the Lake Parent Organization ought to be commended for the terrific stewardship job.
And we just bought a boat.
Yes. So again, not here to make decisions.
Yeah. No.
I think Rob's point of needing a very strong operating agreement is crucial because it has to be win-win.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, yes, it does have to be win-win.
So that's it. Any questions from our trustees at this point?
Yeah. So how does this, there's money that Bennington contributes and Shaftesbury contributes to, that's to your operation?
Bennington contributes $2,700 a year.
Yeah.
Shaftesbury contributes $2,500 a year.
That won't be interfered with by some.
Well, it should be interfered with to be bumped up because it's a ridiculously small amount, but no, I don't know. I can't answer that question, to say the truth. There's been talk from the select board chair in Bennington that they would look favorably upon the municipality taking over control of the lake, and that would incline them to provide more funding, but that's all very vague, and it's the current select board chair, and who knows when that's over what the opinion would be. We've been asking for years for increase in their allocation and have never received it. So
yeah, that's subject to irritation by taxpayers over the costs of adding that in more into the budget. So how does this protect, so some of the land that you walk over from going from, the rec building there on the lake onto the trail over the Frost, some of that's private we walk over?
It's only, the only land the trail's on is owned by the fund, or that section you're talking about is owned by Parent Recreations. There's no other owners.
right.
So this would cement that continuous concept there.
It would. The easement theoretically does that.
Yeah.
I think the easement doesn't give a particular route that was left open, but it would certainly strengthen the protections. It's better to have a friendly owner.
There would be no boundary in there, theoretical boundary.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's an interesting concept, and I think the municipality has the prospect of life in perpetuity, at least at the moment. Yeah. Whereas Parent Recreations is subject to loss of interest, loss of funding, whatever.
Well, I have to say, I mean, the lake is in a very vulnerable place right now. I mean, there are a lot of needs, let's put it that way. And the lake is, it really needs a lot of attention. That's all I really can say right now.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that one party or the other, it's not an either or situation in terms of who, rattles people's chains and tries to get the resources and the attention that is needed for this lake to stay a lake, because it's quickly actually turning into a swamp. And but the other thing that has become really clear from Scott's involvement recently is how important the lake is as the reservoir to protect the downstream from flooding. And I'll tell you right this minute that if we get a tropical storm, the lake is very, very full. And if we get a tropical storm in the next week or 10 days, there's going to be flooding, because it's already all the way up to the spillway. And so it's just something that we have to really think about in not just in terms of the, sort of recreational and environmental aspects of it, which are incredibly important, but what does the lake offer this community and the downstream community as a protection for flooding? And so there are these two tracks that we keep trying to hit the state with, but attention from them is difficult to get down in this part of the state, and it's difficult to get for such a small body of water. So
So, but this shifts the portion that you currently own of the lake, not the water, but just the land that is over, would be shifted to the village.
Yeah, but let me talk a little bit about the question, because the rights that parent recreation has came in 2 deeds. It came from the old, what's now Haviland's Privilege, but when that was the Stark Paper Company. And it includes the right to control the lake, because the Stark Paper Company used that reservoir as a way to control flows of downstream mills.
Yeah.
The extent to which that is a real power in 21st century Vermont, with all the public regulation, is open to a lot of discussion. But in terms of the private property rights, they have private property rights beyond just the land that people walk on to swim.
And will transfer additional liabilities onto the village?
I don't think so, unless you try to exercise it in a way that you're not regulated. But I think, and this is total speculation, okay? I think that if you have a conversation in Montpelier about the need for public safety to draw the lake down, having the village have that conversation is a much more powerful,
stronger situation.
Much more powerful voice than having a nonprofit.
No, we don't have any, we've never even asked about drawing it down for anything but weed control. We don't have the right to do that. But according to one of the deeds we have, we own the bottom of the lake.
Yes.
We own the entire bottom. We own 40 acres. Yeah, we own 40 acres of muck underneath.
That's, you could litigate that one for a while, but
I mean, do we want to own it? I don't know, but we have a deed that shows we own. There's a red line around the littoral, border of the lake. And
I guess I'm just thinking in terms of costs that the village may be asked to bear.
So what I think is that this is a conversation that clearly has piqued interest. We're going to have many more questions. I'd like to see if trustees are interested, we pursue this conversation with other individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would need a committee of our board, like me and at least one other person. I can't be the only person.
Yeah.
I'd volunteer.
Yes.
I'd volunteer.
Right.
Trustees.
So I think can be some cross discussion.
Yeah.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Why don't we make a motion to pursue this project, and then we can start with.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If there is such interest. Oh. So your motion is what?
That's what I started.
I interrupted you.
Yes.
That's no problem.
The motion, please restate.
I'm making a motion that we pursue with interest this proposal Rob has brought to us and work with our partners in it to see if it can be brought to fruition.
Lori, did you hear that? Matthew, was that a second?
Yep.
That's a second from Matthew. Jeff had a question. I don't want to ignore the public.
I was just interested in how the property became the parent acres 60 years ago. And you shed some light on that, but I just was wondering, you said it was.
So the property where the bathing beaches was owned by a family, the McCarthy's. Tim McCarthy still has the property there. And a volunteer group, my understanding is in the late 50s, a volunteer group got together and involved Jim Holden and
Larry
Powers, and the usual suspects from those years. But probably a loan on personal credit from the bank, and help from the dailies, bringing gravel and stuff. And they put together a swimming beach. And then I have to go back and look at the deeds, but there were 2 deeds, and the second one certainly came from the Stark Paper Company. It was being dissolved in the 70s to try to take all the rights, the private rights they had. But as I was just saying, I don't know that they're worth much these days, if anything. but you never quite know. So it was a result of a volunteer effort at a time when there were lots of kids running around the village, and post-war baby boom, and parents got together and got a beach. It's kind of simple version.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I always assumed the village owned it, actually. That's
A
why-
lot of people think of the village.
Yeah, and the Fund from West Bennington, thanks to incredible generosity from the McCarthy's and City Syndicate, actually owns all the way around the North Shore to Perrin Creek and then along the west side of Perrin Creek, all the way up to the Shasberry Dam. You know, so, and then the state owns a lot of the rest of it. So the Fund from West Bennington now owns a lot of the shore.
Be interesting to see an entire map of that at some point
Yeah.
as we go forward with things.
Right.
Is that ownership or is that easement? that
We
the fund
own
has?
title. We have title to.
Wow.
Ted and Kathleen McCarthy deeded their shoreline to the Fund for North Bennington.
Wow.
Because in 21st century America, that many people deed their shoreline for public purposes.
Yeah.
I mean, they were paid for it, but it was a very generous.
This is our Daniel Burnham from Chicago. Saving the lake shore.
Yeah, they were great. And Sage City Syndicate, I think, if I remember correctly, donated their shoreline.
Yeah.
As well. So.
Wonderful.
So
There was a motion, there was a second. Any other thoughts or comments before we take a vote? Not hearing any. All in favor of continuing conversation? Aye. That is unanimous. I would say that as we continue discussions and form subcommittees or just interested parties, let's make sure we include the fire department as people that are downstream from that, especially if there should be an emergency. They're the first people that ought to know and have a say in things.
Yeah, the question does also, like, if we needed to remove those boards, who does that? And
Well, interesting you say that. I think
who does it specifically? Who goes over there?
Well, the state does.
They have to be here?
Yeah, I was told, that's what I was told. I don't know. But as we get into our new business, we will talk about the conservation district meeting that is happening, and those are the type of things that can be discussed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Sure, if I could be helpful.
Yes, that was incredibly interesting and very generous of you to offer that.
It'll go rushing down Perrin Creek and.
Okay, I'm moving on.
Privilege by the firehouse.
Rob, when do you go, are you going back to Arizona? It's too hot.
I'm going to.
Yes. Wow. So you got time for a walk before then?
Probably not, but you could try.
All right.
Folks, much as we love conversation.
Okay.
If you guys would like to, yes, much as we love conversation, we must keep this meeting on, excuse me, folks, we need to keep our meeting here.
We're gonna ask you guys to step out if you want to keep going.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to do just a very quick, Alyssa, I'm sorry, we're going to do a very quick adjustment here, and we're going to have the fire department go on, and I apologize for the 7-minute delay. Please, go ahead. You are going to discuss the second quote for the chimney work. Apparently this was, and those of you who were at the continued meeting know more about it than I do, but there was a request to get a second quote for the chimney work. So
I really don't want to say the price on this because after talking with Norm, because we didn't allow, what's his name, the first one there, to get up on top of the roof and look down like this guy did.
Okay,
So
so you
rather
can
than
call,
say-
you can call it bid 1 and bid 2. That way we don't talk about who it is.
So bid 1 will be referred to as the first.
Okay, right. So we're gonna try to get a hold of him.
bid 1.
Bid 1 and take him up on the roof so he can look down, because bid 2 really saw some stuff up there where bid 1 only looked at it from the ground.
Very,
And then the other way to be fair about this.
okay, very appropriate. So we will delay that until the next month, the conversation on the work, right?
I have a point to make about this because the meeting this afternoon with West Oil produced an alternative scheme for dealing with the channel that is the.
Really?
And it's looking into using a metal sleeve system that goes inside of it. We could do that. I mean, we ought to talk about this
Yes.
further. That's my point.
So are yes. So the fire department folks should know then.
I think Keith heard that, didn't you?
Yeah, probably. We were sitting down there together and talking to, what is his name, Mark?
Mark, his name is Mark Niles. Not related to Pete Niles. We discovered that. At any rate, it's something worth looking into if it's possible to do that.
So if you read bid two's bid there, he doesn't have the sleeve added into that one either.
He doesn't have what?
He doesn't have that sleeve.
Yeah,
in that bid either.
Right. He didn't have tile inside, which is that's the.
So Ray, do you feel that it would be best to have another meeting of perhaps you, if you were there, or Scott, if you were there, and fire department, and really relook at what proposal needs to be made? I'm not sure I follow.
Well, this is the idea that cropped up is a totally different solution.
Okay.
And so I don't know what that costs, but it sounds on the face of it like it'd be cheaper.
Okay.
And I guess maybe we should figure out whether it's actually as workable as masonry solution.
Okay. So when you say we figure, who is we?
We figure.
You said we should figure this out. It was we. Who?
This board.
Okay. Well, who do we talk to, I guess?
I'm not sure who.
Okay.
But I know a party to ask about pricing.
Okay.
The sleeve stuff.
Okay. Well, then we should include the fire department in any
We talked about it
today.
So.
Okay.
Just so you know, Lori did get bumped out. She's trying to reconnect.
Okay.
We are still connected.
We are still, okay. So are there notes that we need to be taking for Lori?
She just went out a minute ago, so Tara.
Okay. I've got terrible reception too.
Okay. Oh, God.
I'm gonna try and
rejoin.
Did we skip the late? Well,
yes, we've adjusted. We want the fire department. They've been.
I have a quick question about the.
Is it the one that was just?
Well, maybe if I just make one point. Please. I was there for this meeting basically to talk to the guy from West and watch what he did and see what he had to report. Should I present that? Because that is relevant to the fire department and it's relevant to our problem with making sure that heat.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I have Lori's somewhere. Probably. Here it is. Okay, so I wrote up my notes from this. I won't read them, but I'll just present them.
Can you forward them to Lori so she has?
Oh yeah, no, I can do that later. But, so Mark Niles was the technician who was there from West Oil. He made an interesting remark about the exterior of the boiler. He said it looked like a 90-year-old man. But however, he didn't mean that it was not serviceable. It just looked terrible. The looks are deceptive in this particular case. The only problem that he found really was that the low water cutoff circuit and the probe that triggers it need to be replaced. They're not functioning at the moment, and that's pretty critical in a boiler. So, and he tested it. So I, on my own say so, sort of authorized him to get this done as soon as possible. It has to be done in warm weather when they can drain the water from the boiler outside in order to work on that particular part of it. We also talked about some other things that could be done at the same time. From our later second meeting of the August meeting, when everybody was at the firehouse, we talked about the exhaust piping on the boiler, and why we were looking at the chimney at all was the fact that there's water getting in, and it's corroding inside of the exhaust piping or ducting above the boiler, and it's also damaging the masonry. Okay. So West Oil could replace that piping from the boiler to the thimble that goes through the chimney. Okay. As part of this operation, when it comes to replace the low water circuitry and probe, and at the same time he didn't say they would do a full clean, but they clean up the face. Okay. And stop it from looking like a 90-year-old man by painting the cast iron parts of it. Okay. That's pretty much what we discussed, except for the tubular exhaust pipe for the chimney, which I mentioned before. So is that his point at the end? He kept making this point because he's an oil man. He noted that the boiler had been cleaned by Bennington Heating and Refrigeration last year in October to 85.7% efficiency. He said if the repairs that he proposed and tuning it up will get it to that point, that he'd say, there's no problem with the boiler at all at that point, especially if we get the ducting to the chimney. So is the what they're talking about is, I'm trying to envision it, which I'm doing a poor job of, but he's putting some piece of pipe into some certain place, and then there's going to be another piece of pipe that will go all the way up the chimney? There's a pipe that's the proposal that competes with the chimney repair. Okay. Yes, that's a pipe, a metal pipe that's insulated. It's dropped down into the chimney, sealed off at the top, and it connects with a seal to the exhaust ducting from the boiler itself. But the repair that he was talking about, that first piece, that's necessary whether you do A or B. That piece of ducting is on it. It's on some. And you are going to follow up with them and make sure that work gets done? I said I included that in the project. Yes. As well as minimal cleaning. Good. So I think this board should support my ad hoc decision. That's what I'm asking for in that regard. And then the other project of checking on the metal piping, metal way of solving.
They call it metal sleeve.
Metal sleeve is, we just need to explore that, and I have a party to talk to. Okay.
Harness is running at 85%. He said most of your new ones aren't that much higher than that. Okay. He said so. So that means 85%. You got a pretty damn good furnace.
So that means it doesn't have to be replaced. No. Like imminent.
No, and that's what we need, because the grant that we're looking for is woefully delayed. Matthew had a comment.
That's my point, really, that if you could get that to happen, my chimney with my wood stove has that insulated stainless steel pipe. That's much cheaper than doing masonry work on what might end up being a obsolete exhaust flue in the future with the grant possibilities.
Okay.
So I think that's really the way to go. If we think we've got a furnace that's going to get us through another year or two.
Well, okay, well then let's research that, but now that leads me to, if there was masonry damage, does that have to be repaired anyway?
That was my
Regardless?
question, yeah. That was-
Yes, but
Okay.
The point of this second bid was that looking down the pipe, they could tell that some of the liner tile down below the top were in need of replacement, which is, creates a bigger project because they have to pull the chimney apart down to where they can get a new tile.
So no, later you.
That one there is, he's tearing down 30 layers of brick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Matthew had another?
Just that, you know, it's an aesthetic situation once there's a insulated flue liner in there. And obviously once you came up with a different heating source that maybe didn't require the chimney at all, or required it just to be there as a place to, you know, for whatever other system to go through, then you would want to, you know, clean up the chimney from the standpoint of the aesthetics and the exterior and all that. But there's no reason to rebuild a chimney for a 19th, 20th century heating system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then it seems like you just guys gotta go.
I think it
start
would
do some more
replace the, tear it apart, rebuild it with pointing job.
Okay.
And,
So
there has to be a cap. There would have to be a cap in any case for either particular direction with that.
And I guess if it's appropriate, I would make a motion to authorize Ray to continue investigating the potential fixes along with the fire department personnel and come back with a proposal. Is that what you're
No, my first thing is to support my decision to tell West Oil to come back and do this work.
You got that?
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor of that first one? Aye. Okay, now, moving along. Do we need a motion, or do you want a motion for this?
No, you can just tell me, direct me that I should
go for it. Go for it.
You guys are good.
Still like bid put another bid in on that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And follow up with Ray's other proposal there. Okay.
I think the waterproofing sounds important. Yeah. Because if the furnace guy is saying there's water getting in, it's damaging the interior pipe.
Yeah, but
the big thing on this right here, whoever does it, we need to tell them we need to put a cap on that.
Yeah.
So the water can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So you guys got it.
That's the solution.
All right. All right.
Oh, the cap.
I think they have a couple of other things.
Yes, you do have a couple of other things. You want to talk about October 7th at least?
Yes. October 7th is Columbus Day weekend. Is usually on that weekend. The fire department has always done their coin drive. So we just want to, in advance, let you know that we'll have that rolled down by the hangar where we always do it. We have all our signs already made, which are state approved. So just want to make sure and see if it's okay if we have that road that day.
I believe there is an insurance requirement that Lori could help us with. Or we can look into it between now and then, but I believe there was some insurance requirement that had to be given to the clerk.
Yeah, let me look back on that, and I can get a hold of Keith and Mike and let them know.
And there was an age requirement too, like if you have.
Yes.
Nobody under 16.
Yeah, got it. You guys seems like you have it all. Motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Seems like, oh, we got plenty of people chiming in here. I'll assume there are no other questions or concerns or comments. Matthew, did you want to weigh in?
Give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. All in favor?
Aye.
October 7th. Have that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think we got it, right?
At least for now. Thank you for your patience.
I know your phone number.
That's right. Let us know.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you for your patience. And Alyssa, thank you for your patience now, because we are going back up to the Lake Parent Organization and requesting alternative use of ARPA funds awarded. And if you don't mind, I'll just set the stage by saying that when ARPA funds were awarded to Lake Parent, there were several different categories, one of which was $15,500 for various picnic tables, purchase, installation, etc. Those tables have not come up to that amount of funding, and there is.
I have it all written down.
You have it written down.
I have it all written down.
How much is left out of that $15,500?
So yeah, so we were allocated $68,200 in the total ARPA allocation at the beginning. We have spent already $61,140, leaving us $7,060. We have some, so we're really asking for a budget modification, not any additional funding. So we're asking if we can move that money from the furnishings line into two things: a storage unit that we really need for our stuff to keep it dry and safe in the winter, and we need to do some work on our HVAC system. We don't have any air conditioning, but our heating system, because there's a problem with a blower and a baffle and a vent. And as we enter the heating season, we really need to get that repaired in order to keep the big room that we use for, camps for kids and other events warm and sort of safe with the proper ventilation going through it. The total of those two things is we have an estimate. I know how much the storage unit would cost exactly, but we have an estimate for the HVAC, which is $5,500. So the total on that is $7,439. We have the possibility of allocating $7,060, and we would cover, obviously, the rest of that cost if you give us the option of moving the money around. So that's our request,
yes,
is to move the money around, not to ask for any more.
It is no longer required to report our ARPA spending as detailed as it used to be, because a year and a half ago, we took a one-time, when they changed rules, we took a one-time allowance to just record it all as municipal funds. Personally, I see no issue with doing this. It does not violate any of the reporting that we would have to do. It's just a matter of, and which is why I asked Alyssa to come. I think the public aspect and the trustees have a right to know where the ARPA funds are going to. And if there were questions or concerns, then you have the right to ask questions and express your concerns.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have several bids for this demolition?
We would get other bids. We want to get other bids, actually. So yeah. I just wanted to get an estimate before. Well, that's the problem we're having.
Why is it so much money? You already have a ventilation system.
There's a baffle inside the system that keeps it from sounding like a locomotive coming through, and that apparently
that makes it sound like
that stops it from sounding, keeps it. So that's part of what needs to be replaced, and that requires like a lot of going into the interior of the system, and we might be able to get a better price. And we would be happy to get a better price. It's not like we want to spend, and so these have just become priorities. It's not like we can't spend the money on what it was originally allocated. It's just that we would prefer to spend it on these expenses because they're more important to us, given everything that's going on.
So. I mean, it's right now you have stiff competition for any ventilation.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so price is probably inflated by that.
Yes. But what can we do?
Wait.
Yeah. Because the heat in the kitchen and bathroom area still function fine, and it's only the big meeting room?
That's yeah, the kitchen, so there are two different zones.
Yeah.
So the kitchen, the problem is the bathroom is in the big room zone. So the kitchen and the office are fine. It's the big space.
Public area.
With the bathrooms, and that's where the problem is. It's not like there's no heat. It's just, it's very inefficient and disturbing to hear the sound. And it means that we can't really, it makes it hard to have anybody come in there who wants to be in a warm space because it's very.
So the sound exists now, or it would exist if you took the baffle out?
The baffle helps prevent the
Prevent
sound.
it.
The baffle is
so
like
you need to put the baffle
is
in.
failing.
Yes.
Baffle is failing right now.
Yes, there's no baffle in it now. We need a baffle, and we need to replace
But you
some
already
other.
have, that will impede your heat flow, will it not?
I'm not an expert. I'm just getting
I
big.
think it's
Sorry.
just a sound modifier.
I know, but it has something to do with redirecting the airflow, and it may actually slow the airflow down. And you already have a problem with heat in the big room.
We don't have problems with it. It's just that it's very, very noisy, and there's some fan. There's a fan problem and a baffle problem, or blower problem. I'm not sure which term is exactly proper, but.
So is the ventilation contractor guaranteeing that there will be no change in your ability to heat that room?
I would assume so, but I haven't asked that question specifically, but they know what the room, how big the room is, and they know where the different vents are that, we have big pipes that are, big aluminum, pipes that run across the ceiling. So there are several areas where the heat comes out there, so.
I'm in support of them being able to shift the remaining funds to this investigation. Yeah. I just don't think.
I am too. I'm just curious.
We would like to get other bids. I just felt that I needed to come with some estimate, and I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of kind of competition out there right now for this service, but
And it was the same conversation when you were asking for the tables. And we thought it was expensive to spend $15,500 on tables.
Right.
So now it's expensive to fix the HVAC.
Yeah.
So one or the other.
We might know somebody who has affection for the lake and might come and do a good job for less funds, but. Well, so basically what we're asking for is the flexibility to redirect the use of the funds. Redirect funds that we've been allocated.
Matthew is making that motion, seconded by Tara. And Ray, did you have any other questions?
No, I actually wanted to compliment you on the picnic tables.
Aren't they nice? Thank you.
They are. We've used them.
And we got a good deal because Camille.
Hold on, we're getting behind here.
Sorry.
No problem.
Are we done?
No, I just want you to hear the vote.
I want to hear the vote.
Are we all in, how does everyone vote on the motion?
Aye.
Unanimous. You have that approval.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we have only a few more things. Doug, I'm going to push you to the end if you don't mind.
I'm here for one.
Okay. Yes, you're stuck anyway.
Right, unless we're going to shut the Zoom down.
No, DRB.
We have a meeting next week.
Yes, I think, Chris, is that all you wanted to say, or did you want?
Just, if I'm here for any questions about it.
Okay.
We have 2 items on the agenda and warrant those meetings.
Yep.
Okay. And that meeting is out there. Any questions for zoning or DRB? Hearing none, we will move along. And the only thing I will say on Planning Commission, I did have a PowerPoint to show you that Kim Hall had kindly put together. And I will say that this village ought to be eternally grateful to Mr. Hall and his efforts. He is really leading the charge with writing up the new zoning bylaw. It is becoming more and more challenging. And I wanted to share some of those with you, specifically with regards to how it has gotten more complicated with some legal changes. But I'm going to defer that in space of time. Just note that there is a planning commission meeting on Wednesday, next Wednesday. Tuesday is the DRB. Wednesday is the planning commission. Both of them are held here in this place. We're close to being back on time. New business. Camille, I'm going to have you go first. And Camille Kaufman is here from the Lake Perrin organization. Yes. And please, I'm so sorry, I can't recall your name. Even though we've met. Elizabeth Schumacher. Elizabeth Schumacher, yes. Please introduce yourselves to our audience and present. A couple of us, Ray and I went to the initial launch of this health survey, but I think it should come from your voices.
Yes, so I'm Camille Kaufman. I'm the director of Perrin Recreations, also known as Lake Perrin. And Elizabeth?
I'm Elizabeth Schumacher. I'm the community health ambassador for Lake Perrin in North Bennington.
So we're here to present some data, just to give you some information about what we've been working on as it presents to Lake Perrin as well as the community of North Bennington. So back in May, I applied for the Vermont Health Equity and Community Design Technical Assistance Pilot, which is through the Agencies of Commerce and Community Development and Vermont Healthy Communities through the Department of Health. That's a mouthful. And we've been consulting with Equitable Cities, which is a consultant firm out of Virginia. And I applied for this grant because, as some of you know, we've been working on the Save Lake Perrin campaign. So to receive a little bit of technical assistance on running that campaign, and also getting tips and advice on how to gather the community input and assist local organizations and decision makers such as yourselves with the data that's present in this survey, which we released the community health assessment back in the summertime, I believe. And we offered incentives for community members to take it from, they didn't have to be from North Bennington, but we have zip codes that are relevant to our local area about how to make North Bennington and Lake Perrin specifically a more inclusive, accessible place, and how we can go about doing that. And then with this data, we plan to apply for more grants to promote those goals of ours. So Elizabeth's just going to run through the data. Does anyone have any questions initially about the survey? Or hopefully you all took it.
Where were your gathering points?
Our gathering points as far as who took it from the community.
What were the ways to take it, I guess?
Oh, yeah.
It was online survey. So we distributed through a variety of mediums. We did social media, front porch forum. We went door to the bulletin boards across. We did some at the events that happened at Lake Perrin, the media news. We distributed them there.
The sculpture show we had right here, actually. We had laptops set up for people to take some.
Trying to make it as accessible as possible.
And was there, and maybe you were going to talk about this, was there do you have a total number of respondents?
Yep, in some, so there are 78 total responses that came through. So the first page kind of goes over the demographics of who took the survey, mostly full-time, mostly female, mostly white.
So the N equals, that's the number of respondents?
Yes. Yes, that answered those questions.
For those questions,
yes,
right.
In total, there were 78. So after the demographics, if you flip the page, it goes over what people found to be the most important factors for a healthy community, most important factors for most important health problems in the community, and most important behavioral that impact overall health. So there was a lot of, oh, yes. Yes. Would you like to see him as well?
Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Elizabeth, I'm on Zoom. I'm Lori. Hi.
Hi, Lori.
So I took part in the survey and I received a link to all of these results. Would it be okay to share that with the trustees sometime this week so that they can have it to look more thoroughly at it?
I'll just show it to her.
Yes. And I think is that this? Or is what you
right,
received?
I received that link on the computer.
Yeah. And I was just mentioning that if you need a copy for your notes, I'll get you this, but I'm also going to get this link to our website.
Right, that's what I was hoping you would do, and to the rest of the trustees, just so it can, you can look at it in a little more depth. I found it very interesting, so that's the only reason I'm mentioning it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Of course, thank you. So really quickly, going over the results, the top 5 most important health factors for the community were good jobs, healthy economy, affordable and safe housing, low crime, safe neighborhoods, access to healthcare, parks and recreation. The top 5 most important health problems that people perceived in the community were mental health, domestic violence, child neglect and abuse, lack of health insurance and dental problems. And the top 5 most important behaviors that impact overall health were substance abuse and drug abuse, overweight, poor eating habits, alcohol abuse, and lack of exercise. And then the next questions are more Lake Perrin specific. As you can see, so the big green share of that pie, most people have visited Lake Perrin who took the survey over 5 times. So it's a big chunk of survey respondents coming to Lake Perrin. Some reasons for people that weren't able to visit Lake Perrin were physical limitations, just not having the time, the pandemic and concern of health, and just not being a top priority. But as you can see on the other side with the graph, Lake Perrin has a lot of perceived benefits for the community, including childcare and summer programs, which is a big thing at Lake Perrin, economic health, environmental, educational learning opportunities. It's a source of mental health for the community, but also people found that to be a personal benefit. Physical health, same, be more of a personal benefit, social health, and other benefits, which.
And we did have a section on the survey that included qualitative responses, so I'll just read them here. And this is, I'm reading from a greater PowerPoint that Equitable Cities put together. It's kind of in depth and will take a long time for us to go through. So I can also send that to you, Mary, and I can
feel free and I'll share that
after. But some qualitative responses from community members. People avoid the lake because of security, vandalism, and Lions Park is not patrolled after hours, unsafe. Bennington County, well, this is kind of harsh, but sorely lacks community-based, community-minded leaders. I love Lake Perrin. Let's see. To ensure safety of children and strengthen the fight against crime, ensure good, ensure good, healthy food in the community. So kind of tapping into food access there. So those are just, oh, and this one is good. Please consider making Lake Perrin a bit more welcoming to seniors and the disabled. Many of us have a long history with the lake and the town and would love to have a better connection with it now. So those are just some of the feedback that's really meaningful from the community. So then with this, Mary and Ray attended. We had a ice cream social at the end of August, kind of ending our season at Lake Perrin, where we invited community members to receive the data and then come up with some suggestions and feedback from that. Some of the suggestions that we received were to reach out to other communities, organizations such as the SBSU, the Afghan Refugee Group, and have more contacts with Applegate and Willowbrook, because we're also trying to determine which communities we're missing in our outreach at Lake Perrin. And again, always trying to make it more accessible. There was a suggestion for events and programming for aging populations. Another topic that we talked about was how do we get information about events and programming out to our community? And something that we came up with was maybe creating a North Bennington community calendar. I mentioned if you're familiar with the Shaftesbury Digest, which is I think it's a monthly newsletter out of Shaftesbury that's relatively new and has a whole calendar of events going on in the community, but also updates from North Bennington or of Shaftesbury. Something like that might be helpful. Of course, that takes someone to be doing that. And then for Lake Perrin specifically, making it more of an outdoor education destination for field trips from the SBSU and other schools, and an education center, which is a pipe dream down the road. So those were a few things.
Yeah. There was some suggestions about having subsidized recreational activities at Lake Perrin with membership for low-income community members. I know that yoga costs $15 and can be a deterrent to some people. Some kids-specific activities, partnering with the Bike Hub, coordinating kids' rides in and around North Bennington. And Camille talked about the pipe dream of long-term creating an educational center at Lake Perrin, centered around protecting the lake, all the efforts that we've put in, Camille has put in towards saving the lake, and creating an educational program around that. And I think that was it. A pizza oven that keeps coming up.
Yeah. So then, sorry, do you want to talk about the grant then?
Yes, there was also another suggestion to do a mural at Lions Park, a community-wide mural, bring the community in, a collaboration, which tying into the grant. So there's the Better Places grant through the Vermont Department of Community Development, Commerce and Community Development, which is a crowdsourcing grant, and they do a lot of transformation of place projects. And we think that with this data is kind of sets up for that grant, for the application of that grant. So kind of taking those ideas and seeing what the community wants to do.
So that's where we're at.
I love the idea of looking at the Better Places grant. Some people may remember that the Roundtable group did look at some of that some years ago. It does, at my recollection, but it's been a couple of years since I sat in on a seminar on this, is it is crowdfunded, but it also, you need some kind of partner, whether it's a municipal, you need several partners in with it. And I'm assuming that perhaps the Village of North Bennington could be one of your partners.
Yes. So we're still finalizing that, but we have the data now, and we'll continue to seek community input about these sorts of things.
Okay. Well, I think that's wonderful, and count us in if we can help with the Better Places.
Great, thanks. And we'll send these information to you, and I will give you this.
All right.
Thanks. I just have one.
Yes.
One, maybe two quick questions. First of all, congratulations. This is great information. So, is there thought moving forward of trying to expand the number of folks that respond by maybe direct mailings, things like that? I don't know if this is going to be an ongoing, because this would be great information. This is great information. This would be even greater information, especially to the village, if it could be expanded and partnership. This ties in, I'm the treasurer, so I do tax billing. I can tell you there's 423 parcels that get tax billing. Now, in that's just North Bennington Village. Yeah. So a duplex will only get one bill, but you could have potentially two houses. So I'm not saying there's 423 here. So my point being is 78 is a great number to see here. If that can be expanded, I don't know what your plan is going forward, because I see you say August 2023 updated. So I don't know if you're planning to do this annually, if you're planning to just expand on this, or where you're going forward.
So it was updated because the initial data that we received, we got a lot of bots that responded. We actually got 788 responses. So it dwindled down quite a lot. So that's the updated portion. And we tried to be as most accessible as possible while being cost efficient, because we thought about doing the direct mail, but printing out all of the surveys.
And I get that piece of it too. And that's just kind of what I was wondering when I first asked, because I do remember taking it online. I don't remember where I took it. So that was why I was kind of just wondering, and that would also help. You weren't here earlier. There was conversation about, and I'm sure through Perrin, of the ownership of the lake and partnering with the village and things like that. So I think this could tie into that, but also help the trustees with other decisions of these. So, you know, if there's a partnership there, that's what I was just wondering was, you know, if you're trying to make this annual, if this is a one shot and we're like, okay, we're working with what we have.
I think for now, our goal was just to give this out and distribute it, but it would definitely be something we would be looking into pursuing annually, if not biannually. We want to make it as accessible as possible.
Right.
Make sure
and that's where I was kind of going with, you know, right here, a lot of folks will be able to reply online, but the same where you had, I think you had a comment of, you know, the older that couldn't get there.
Yeah.
Those are also tend to be the ones that don't have the online access or aren't as, you know, readily available to know where to go to take those surveys. So and agreed that it is a big undertaking with mailing, as I'm working on tax billing. So I'm well aware of the undertaking that goes into it.
Just slip it into our tax bills.
That's right. Yeah. Just stuff more things in there.
Yeah.
Well, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
No, I think that kind of tied everything together for me.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
So, in the summer camp that took place this year, is there much natural science emphasis, observation, so forth?
Yes, so it was our village camp, so it was in partnership with VAE, the library, the Highland Hall Garden, Lake Perrin, and Bennington College. And for the Lake Perrin portions and the Bennington College portions, those were all mostly nature recreation based. We had a nature hour, which Bennington College students put on every Monday, which was all about the biology and ecology around Lake Perrin.
Okay.
And then each afternoon we would spend at Lake Perrin, and that would involve some kind of recreation or outdoor education lesson. So yeah, definitely a good amount of that. And we actually worked this past year with our AmeriCorps Vista to create a curriculum binder of outdoor education, place-based education content for Lake Perrin, which we've never had before.
And I think the pipe dream of having an educational center at Lake Perrin would be having Lake Perrin be a field trip destination to incorporate all the schools in the area.
That would be really nice.
Yeah, pipe dream. We really hope.
No, don't say that. Say,
down the line.
Down the line, right.
Long term.
Is UCS still running camps there or not?
No, Micah did.
Pardon?
Micah, it's like the gymnastics studio. They ran the camps. So UCS, I think they're at Shaftesbury now.
Yeah, UCS was doing it at Lake Shaftesbury.
Oh, Lake Shaftesbury.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mike has done several years there now, because I know my boys are older and they did it quite a number of years ago. Yeah, so Mike has done it there for quite a while.
Yeah. So all kinds of camps to visit each day, VPI.
Good, thank you. And then I think, you know, maybe in the future, if there are things that we can link to the village website, to your website, that might help promote. I think we talked about that at one point. You know, because the village has the same problem or issue is making sure that everybody knows where to go and get information. So we can share. I'm not a Facebooker. I know a lot of people do that. And you just,
but
there isn't just, there just is not one size fits all.
No.
So.
Yeah. And that could also be a good project for our AmeriCorps person.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you. We appreciate your time and look forward to many fun events at the lake.
Yeah.
We have stone skipping this Saturday.
That's right.
Stone skipping this Saturday. Good. 1 to 6 p.m.
Try to beat the record.
What time does that begin?
1 to 6, but the pros start at 4.
Okay.
So if you want to watch them skip 30+ times.
Yay!
And I think you're looking good for
No, I had to count the first year.
I think so.
I had to count the skips, and man, that was tough.
I know.
I had to do that 1 year too.
And then me.
You gotta we have judges this year, but
all right.
Oh,
you
good.
should still come.
Good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So to move along, we are going to be a little bit longer than we thought. And Robert, I have not forgotten about you. The Conservation District is holding a resilience forum at Lake Perrin, and that is on September 23rd. I did send an email to, or a link to all the trustees. This is something, again, that when we talk about the importance of the lake, the entire watershed, there's going to be quite a number of different state agencies here presenting. You may know more about this than I do.
No, I've
so
just
please
heard about
chime
it
in
the other day, but I'm very interested in attending.
Yeah. Well, I have signed up. I know it is a 6-hour event, which is a lot on a Saturday. I don't know that I can do 6 hours, but I will be there as much as I can. And I'm really hoping that it was in the newspaper, it was in front on Facebook or wherever. So I'm hoping members of the public who are interested in such will have had a chance to go and register for this. So please do that if you, all of us, if we can, to some degree. It's our chance to make our point about how valuable this part of the watershed is to us, and how not only valuable, but how downright essential good management of this is. And this is the time to get the ear of other agencies in the state, which I know the Lake Perrin organization has been really grappling with doing that. So all I'll say about that one. Under old business, Jeff is not here to mention this, but he and I worked on getting a request for proposal out for the tree pruning and the vegetation at the 2 bridges that we talked about the other day. I will send send an email to, here, there's copies for the 3 of you. We sent this out to 4 individuals. Jeff helped me go through the list of registry of technical service providers in the state that was provided to me by the Bennington County Forester. And so we are hoping to get some responses back to this. I've got to, you don't have to send this off.
I'm sending it to Matt.
Oh, well, I'll also send Matthew a PDF so it's easier if he wants to see it. I just didn't get a chance before this meeting. Just notifying you that RFP has gone out to 4 people. We're asking for responses back by the end of the month, and hope to have that project worked on also by this fall. Final thing I will say before we take Robert's question is that a couple meetings ago talked briefly about all the documents and the records and the yada yada that's upstairs, and the box full of stuff that nobody knows what it is. Tom Fells kindly went up and went through some of this stuff and just looked at it with me. There are boxes and boxes of things that look like they're framed something or other. He identified some of them as prints of some historic stuff that might be better off displayed somewhere, whether here or elsewhere in a village or something. Library, perhaps, who knows? There's not that many of them. Most of the things in boxes, Tom identified as belonging to VAE. Matthew Perry and I had to skip 2 of our planned meetings due to COVID, one for me, one for him. So we are meeting to go look at the boxes at 10 o'clock next Wednesday. So if anybody's interested, come along, show up here 10 o'clock next Wednesday. Matthew's going to look at some of the boxes and see what's what. Tom also put me in touch with a couple of agencies or folks in the state that do archiving and stuff. And I have a scheduled call with a person at the Vermont State Archives who they come and do site visits and help people look at stuff and just say, here's a plan. So we're gonna start moving along and to see that we don't just have stuff up there as a potential fire hazard or food for mice. We'll keep you posted on where we go with that. That's all I have to report for either old business or new business, unless any trustee has something they wish to bring. Hearing not, Mr. Novak.
I'll be very quick.
Please.
Thank you. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, this is, it's been about a year, a little over a year since a couple of us went down and talked to Chief Doucette about the traffic in the area. So I did a kind of a review on the North Bennington webpage. And these are some of the comments that I've gotten. Some of you have seen them. I used the first paragraph as an opening to the letter to the banner. I did, which I thought it was quite something. There are a couple of new things I hadn't heard. I hadn't heard from School Street before, and somebody made a mention of people not following one-way signs, and I've seen that myself in front of Pangea. I did write a letter to the chief. I included a copy of this and also a copy of the letter that I sent to the banner. It mentions enforcement among other things. So that's just for your information. Okay. That's right there.
And as you know, which it's a perfect segue to announce this, this is a good thing to have here because our October meeting will be at Park McCullough, and it will pretty much feature Chief Doucette.
Right. What date is that?
That is October 10th. Will be our same time at 7 o'clock. It will be at Park McCullough.
At the carriage barn?
At the carriage barn. Chief Doucette will be here to take questions and answers. Stu Hurd and Jeannie Jenkins will also be here. They will be talking about the tax rates that are assessed to North Bennington residents and the services provided and measurement of such. So this is good information to have, Robert.
And I did ask him when I sent the letter that, Ms. Jenkins had sent me at least some figures for the police, but it wasn't very specific. And I said I would be asking him what citations were for speeding and where they were in the village those citations were given. So I will ask him that next.
Please feel free.
Yeah, breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something also that I think that is been on my mind for a long time, that people coming into the village from certain points, they don't ever know that there's a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit in the village. They come in from Houghton Street, 30 miles per hour, Prospect Street 30. What's the other one I have? Mechanic Street. And there's nothing that says on the way into the village that it's gone down to 25. So if you come in Houghton Lane doing 30 miles per hour and you go down Bank, you have no idea that it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And that would be important if there's ever some enforcement. Because someone would say, I had no idea, because there's no sign there. Now, my idea would be make them all 25 on the entry points. I know that's difficult, but I'd be glad to help in any way if you tell me whom to write about that. That's all. It's something that's been on my mind.
Thank you.
I'll tell you is half hours and half shifts.
I believe that is correct.
Yes, I didn't have the speed.
Well, I mean, we would have to work with shifts.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what the markings are. I know there's a 25 mile per hour for Bank Street just when you get across the track by the variety store. But there's nothing coming in on these egresses, entrances that let people know that they should be going somewhere.
Well, I will read thoroughly through all of this. I will share it with Norm.
Thank you.
In case there's something that he has to say.
Good work. I think.
Next time I'll talk about the scoots.
About what?
The scoots.
Scoots?
Yeah, not speed bumps. Scoots.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So Ray had a good idea. And we're going at every crosswalk, we're going to get the button where the lights flash, and then we're going to hire
people go around
and push the buttons all day.
Let me know.
All right.
We're going to call you actually.
All right. So we will have notification go out about the October meeting well in advance. And yes, please do. We expect that to be very well attended. Okay. So, is there, if anyone has reason to call executive session, we can do so. Other, huh? Oh, good God, I forgot. Doug.
Doug.
Yes.
Doug, talk to us.
Doug, please. Oh my gosh, and Doug's got important information about tax bills. Oh, so sorry.
That's quite all right. So I have a number of different things. First, the delinquent report. We are down to 5 total outstanding delinquent parcels. Of those, 2 of them are less than $100. 2 of them are paying regularly monthly. And so that leaves 1, which when it was turned over to the attorney that represents the village for delinquent taxes, there was a property transfer that wasn't recorded properly. So he, the attorney is working to try to get a hold of the new property owner because they are probably unaware that there's delinquent taxes on the property. So he's working through that. So again,
wouldn't that, if there was a transfer, wouldn't it be the attorney's?
It's a very long story.
It's very convoluted. Yes. To answer your question in very short order, yes, but it didn't happen the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Correct. There was issues on both sides of the table, seller and buyer. We'll leave it there. So that's number 1. We talked about Norm. Audit update. We are still with our current audit provider. However, as it's been talked about, they will not be doing audits going forward. Mary and I have discussed this both for the water department and the village because typically they share those. And there's a prorated portion because the village does every 2 to 3 years. Water department does every year. Long story short, we're going to have to regroup and decide because I talked to a CPA that I'm very familiar with and I've known her for quite some time in Manchester. Her company does not do audits at all. They just do tax services. She referred me to a couple larger firms, which I was familiar with in Rutland, talked to both of them. Neither of them do municipalities. They started referring up to Montpelier. So I said, okay, we need to regroup because now we're getting, way out and, for what the village needs as far as size goes, they're going to throw out a price and it's going to be a take it or leave it. There's not going to be the ability because they're just going to say, we do what we do. So Mary and I are going to sit at some point and probably talk with our current provider and see what the recommendation may be for us. So again, just a follow up, just an update where that is. So the big news, and these 2 pieces tied together, is the tax billing. Since Bennington's tax billing is now out, that means North Bennington can finalize theirs. A lot of folks don't realize we have to wait for Shaftesbury and Bennington to finish first, and then we go behind them. So our tax billing has been completed. I printed everything this morning. And they are being stuffed. All will be in the mail by Friday. So those will all be out. There will be questions, I'm sure, because in addition to the increase from what the trustees can control, the education rate has gone up significantly for North Bennington. For 2023, the homestead rate for education was 1.5628. In 24, it is 1.996, so just a shade under $2. Non-homestead has gone from just over $1.71 to basically $2. And that all has to do with the common level of appraisal. We've talked about that before. If anybody has questions or wants a refresher, let me know. I have my report that I had done. We'll see about getting some information on the website for residents that may not fully understand how the CLA works, where it's going with the state, and what's happening with it. The follow-up piece is for Bennington, or for North Bennington, if you're a village resident, your property is held by Bennington, which most everybody is aware. Bennington has decided at their June or July meeting to move forward with their reappraisal. The estimate for the earliest start date would be 2025, and it is an approximate 24-month completion. So meaning from the day they start it to the day that they finish it, after all the inspections are done, after all the reviews are done, request for all those. The last one was done, just for the sake of comparison, was back in 2008. So we're basically going from 2008 to 2015 for numbers. Grand list, just for information, went up a whopping $2,000 for North Bennington. Went from just over 713,000 to 715,000. So again, when you look at your tax rate, your grand list is only going up $2,000. We all know what properties are selling for, but because that's how Vermont operates as far as no readjustments in between, that's how it goes.
Right.
And
now, Bennington, when they do it, North Bennington's part of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Yep, that's
so
exactly right.
We'll be getting done between 25 and 27.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
and just for those,
do they know the sequence of?
No, it's just
we used to get hit first.
No, but it's going to be. I don't think they're working on the contract piece. Yeah. So once that is settled, then the schedule would come out. Okay. So we wouldn't even know, as a property owner or as the trustees or Bennington for that matter, until the company that they're using, which I'm not sure if they have announced who they're using or not, I don't know. It's not out there. So there will be a schedule in place, obviously.
Right.
But I don't know where that's going to fall. And then, go from there. For those, if anybody's listening, the Shaftesbury ID district, which falls under the Shaftesbury listing, they are also reappraising, but they are doing it starting in August of next year, and they are expected to be completed in June of 26. So still the same amount of time frame, but they're able to go sooner because it's a much smaller amount of properties that they have, and they're using a different service. The service they use can't provide to Bennington because Bennington's too large. So they will have that. And just, for a point of reference, the Shaftesbury ID district, their rates went up too for education. It wasn't as a significant increase as North Bennington, but they did.
Because they were in better shape in terms of.
And the irony is, while they still have reappraisal because they've fallen below, they had done a more recent appraisal than Bennington, and they're still in the same boat as far as having to do it again because of property sales.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at. That's going to be the rest of my week, is stuffing envelopes and getting billing out and letters out. So unless anybody has any other questions, I think all my other stuff we talked about.
Very good.
This was a long meeting, lots of information, many thanks to all participants.
That's what happened.
And yes, and all of you who had wonderful questions to ask. So at this point, we will entertain at 9:08, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor? I don't think I even should ask, but let's say it. Aye. Unanimous. Lori, you let us know if there's any information you didn't get.